Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Zoom edition of ATI. Dan with Brian, Jason, and Josh. Great to have Jason and Josh joining us. And we haven't been on the air in about a month, I would say. So a lot to get to. First of all, how are all you gentlemen doing? I haven't seen you guys in a while.
So surviving COVID. I like that mustache, Dan. It's nice.
Thank you.
I'm jealous. Is that a COVID mustache?
It's a 2020 COVID. Let's finish the year strong mustache.
Handlebars are next.
We'll see.
In a world where I don't know that any of us have the facial hair to survive No Shave November, the mustache is rounding us out pretty well. So doing what we can.
The mustache is playing right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's just dive right in. Let's start with the Pats, who have really been a roller coaster this year. When they fell to 2-5 after that loss to the Bills, I don't know about you guys, but I almost wrote the season off. And then I almost wrote it off more than I did with the loss against the Bills after that win against the Jets, because it was such a pathetic performance, even though they won, that I almost wrote them off more after that win. But after Sunday night, they could be dangerous. What do you guys think?
They're a spoiler. I think that's they're nothing more than a team that can make life difficult for the real contenders. I don't think they just don't have the personnel to. I mean, they're so confusing. I'm so confused by them. And I want to point out that I had them beating Baltimore because I think Baltimore is a fake team. It's a gimmick team. They're fake. They're frauds.
Matt Custodio's favorite quarterback in the NFL.
But I look at the team and I look at the roster and I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, I don't get it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who grew up on Mighty Ducks could tell you, Corvin one way, Corvin the other way, you miss completely, right? And that's kind of been the tale of the Pats season. They could have beaten the Bills and they could have beaten the Seahawks, and you're sitting pretty at 6-3, or they could have just lost the Jets, and really then it's time to pack in. I think to Josh's point, if we're being real with ourselves, the Patriots have a bottom 5 roster with everybody who sat out or left in the offseason, and they shouldn't really be that good. And it's a testament to them that they've stuck with it by even being competitive here. But I think Josh is right. Maybe they're a spoiler. Maybe they either have a clutch win down the stretch to sneak into the playoffs or to ruin somebody's season. But contender status, I mean, that's just it just feels like a reach even for Belichick.
Now they're 2 games out now behind the Bills, right, for the division, I guess, right? And they're the number. Let's see, I want to say they're like 12th. They have to be a top 7 or 6 team to make the playoffs because of the 2. Is there only 2 wild cards this year, or do they change that because of COVID?
I don't think anything's finalized. I know they've been throwing some ideas back and forth expanding, but that's another good point, right? There's no margin for error left of the season, right? So even, they could finish the rest of the season looking like a top 10 team in the NFL and still miss because they could lose to Buffalo again, and Buffalo's
hell, you could lose to Miami
team. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're third. Yeah, we're third in the division right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you lose 4 games in a row, obviously you're going to be scrapping to get back into it. But now at 4-5 with the Texans this Sunday, the Texans are no good. They're going to be 5-5, I think, and then who the hell knows from there. It's kind of fun to have the Patriots be sort of a scrappy potential, potential wild card, potential dark horse team like you guys are talking about, because obviously we're used to them being the favorites every year and the pressure that means not only for the team but for the fan base too. So this could be a fun second half of the season.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that the positive you have to look at, and I screamed about this last year, and I think it's obvious at this point that it was a Brady issue and not a Jacoby Myers issue. Jacoby Myers is good. I mean, that's this. If you've seen his highlights at NC State, I believe, where he went, like, the guy he knows how to get open. He's got good hands. He knows how to sit down in a zone coverage. And then this other kid, Damian Harris, runs like a man's man. He is old school, shoulders square to the tackler, run you over, fall forward for the extra 2 yards. So, and The offensive line, Isaiah Wynn has settled in health, and he's good. J.C. Jackson looks like he's going to be a real thing. So there's some good building blocks here for the Patriots. I'm not sold on Cam Newton being the quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years, but I think you can get a guy. I think you can get like a Justin Herbert type player in the draft this year. So I feel good about the future. I feel better about the future now than I did 3 weeks ago.
It's just an uncomfortable spot to be in. You know, usually you look to the Jets or whoever talking by week 9 about the future, right? And the draft board for the next year or something like that. And even to flirt with that notion's kind of scary. But yeah, no, there's part of me that wonders, like, should we be running these games on Cam and continuing to play out the season and see what comes of it, or should we be investing more in getting reps for Stidham or somebody? I don't know. I mean, we saw that show already. No, I mean that's probably true. So.
I mean, I'm at the point where I say, if let's say they win the next however many games they have, whether they 4, so they got 7 games left, right? So if they go
7 games,
6-1, and you end the season at 10-6,
they'll definitely be in.
Yeah, they'll be in, but it's not even so much that. Does that mean, and it depends on how Cam looks and when they win those games, but you then bring Cam back, and it's like, so I guess I'm at the point where I know they're not going to contend, and I know they don't have the next guy on their roster theoretically. So I would rather try to win the games, I think, and basically learn, can Cam do it for the next 3 or 4 seasons, and can you spend draft collateral elsewhere? Or, you know, they try to win and Cam stinks and they end up losing out and you get a high draft pick anyways.
I think they can't fall into a trap where, let's say they do end up making the playoffs. Like you said, they win 10 games, they squeak in as a wild card, and they lose in the first round. And I don't think this will happen because Bill Belichick is the coach and the GM. He's not going to fall into a trap of thinking, okay, Cam got me to the playoffs, now he's our quarterback. He's not going to – yeah, he got you to the playoffs this 1 year, but it's just this year. I feel like the Cam Newton thing is a 1-year experiment. That's the kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Well, and that's the way the contract's drawn up. And frankly, It's for both sides, right? Like, you could tell me Cam looks good the last 6 games of the year, and suddenly he has negotiating power that the Patriots isn't palatable for them anymore. The one thing I will say is, like, do we think the Patriots are just a better team next year anyhow because a bunch of people are coming back, and thus, like, maybe you are fine with that 10-6 team knowing that you get a much stronger defensive core coming back, and really you're a win and a half better than you showed in 2020.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. What else? I honestly haven't been watching much of the league besides the Pats, but what else are we seeing right now across the league? I'll let you guys jump in because, like I said, last Sunday the only game I watched was the Pats.
I mean, something I want to talk about that Bills game. I know Matt and I, we always talk about it. We get to see Kyler Murray down the Cape Cod League, and he wasn't the biggest guy on the field, but he was definitely he stood out. Just his personality, people gravitate towards him. He's a phenomenal athlete. I think he got a $10 million guaranteed contract from the A's that he's turned down to go play football. I mean, he's that good. And I remember watching the game on the red zone and thinking, okay, well, all right, they're close. All right. And then all of a sudden, the last play of the game, he scores a touchdown. The Bills lose that game. And now because of that, the Patriots, in theory, are 2 games behind them. So it was nice to see, a younger quarterback do something. Usually those guys put up a bunch of numbers, but they don't put together wins. But I think him and Russell Wilson, they lead the league for combined touchdowns between rushing and throwing, which is pretty impressive. And then just along the league, I mean, as a Raiders fan, they're 6-3, which is, I mean, that's crazy. They're going to play Kansas City, and they'll probably get spanked this time. They beat them last time somehow. But
that's a huge game, bro.
Oh, it's a very huge. If they beat Kansas City again somehow, then they're a legit team. They've had a lot of really close wins. They're a decent team, but they've been fined $1.2 million in COVID violations. They've had a lot of stupid.
Raiders.
The Raiders are being the Raiders, basically. But you look at, like I said, I wasn't sure how many teams are going to make the playoffs. It's going to be probably Kansas City, the Ravens, and then the Steelers. They look really, really good. They're really surprising me. I mean, no matter how much they win, no matter how much they do, I never really think much of their coach, just regardless. But they put up numbers this year. So you look at those three teams plus the Bills. Okay, then you only got 4 or 5 slots left. So it's starting to get kind of crowded. Then you get the Miami and the Buffalo team too. So is there room for the Patriots? Right now they're outside looking in, but a couple injuries could happen. I think the healthiest team at the end is probably going to be the best team. And with these COVID numbers going up, like Kansas City, for instance, both of the starting tackles are not going to play. That's really big considering if you don't have your starting offensive lineman and you got some guys out the practice squad, practicing, you're not going to have the same holes. You're not going to have as much time to throw the ball as well. The Patriots actually have been pretty lucky when it comes to COVID. They've had Cam Newton and a couple of the guys, but there's been a lot of teams they lost 4, 5, 6 guys at a time. And I think that the NFL has done a lot.
And they got a gift by getting that bye week during the COVID issue they were having.
Right. But and Dan, as a fan who's big Brady fan, big Patriots fan, is it more interesting that Brady's not around, and is it nice to know that the games mean more, or what is the attitude just like, oh well, we'll just wait till the playoffs? For me, I'm a casual Patriots fan. I'm not a huge Patriots fan. I like the fact that they're good. I like the fact they win. And I like going to people's houses for the Super Bowl. That's out this year too because of COVID. You can't do that. But the fact that they might not be in the playoffs, these games actually mean anything, I think it's more fun to watch.
It's totally different. Like I said, the stress level watching as a fan is totally different now because with Brady, the expectation was every single game you're going to win. Right. And every single year you should at least get to the AFC Championship, which is ridiculous. But that was literally the way it was. They made it to the AFC Championship, 7 years in a row, 8 years in a row, whatever it was. That streak I know the streak was broken last year. But, the stress level watching the Patriots games this year is just totally different from 20 straight years of Brady.
Have we heard anything on the ratings at all with more people being home? Is there any numbers been published?
No.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I assume if baseball's numbers went up this year, then I have to imagine that football and everything else has gone up.
And then I think at this point we're seeing that it's the Brady factor, not the Bill factor, that especially is doing right now. I mean, maybe, in the long term, if Belichick has the weapons, but with Brady going to Tampa Bay, how much of a difference is that making? Is it really Tampa Bay has that much better weapons?
It's still too early for people to say that the Brady versus Bill thing, to say, oh, it was Brady.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think like Jason was saying, there's a couple of those games that couldn't have gone either way. And I don't think Tom Brady was going to win you any games with his legs.
Well, and I think the other thing too is you look at both situations right now, respective to what they would be without those people, right? If the Patriots with the bottom 5 roster don't have the best coach in the NFL, are they actually just the Jets this year? And similarly, the Bucs, who have been having a pretty stellar season, they have the best receiving core in the league. If Jameis was still there, what does that look like? Are they really that much worse off? Are the Patriots that much better with Brady? I don't know. I mean, there's so many variables. It's also just it's not a very interesting point in time to really view the Brady versus Belichick thing. You have 40, 42, 43-year-old Tom Brady. It's not like we're comparing his peak to anything. No, I mean it's just more radio talking points.
Are we surprised that he hasn't got busted for getting a package delivered to his house yet, with HCG and HGH and something or other? I mean, he's pretty due for that, isn't he?
No, he's got his.
He's a Michigan man. He's smarter than that.
Yeah, he's got
a fall guy.
He's got his pliability and all that. But to that point though, Jason, too, I've heard it on both radio stations here locally in the Boston area, both sports stations. It's obviously Brady. It's obviously I just don't understand how that can be the case when you look at Brady's had a few clunker games for starters, and he's literally probably has the best receiving core and some of the best running backs ever assembled by mankind, and their defense isn't bad either. They have a decent defense. I think, if you want to give a little edge to Brady, then fine, sure. But the fact that Belichick's team is competitive with, Jason, you've been saying, one of the worst rosters in the league is, I think, a testament to the fact that he's a really damn good coach. And I think the problem is what people can't separate right now in this argument is Bill the GM from Bill the coach. Bill the GM is average at best. Or at least over the past 10 years, in my opinion. Bill the coach is still no one even touches his jockstrap with his coaching ability.
Well, it's that, and it's also just what people are used to, right? Nobody looks at the roster. Everybody just baselines to everything Dan has said about here's what we've seen for the past 20 odd years, right? And that's the only thing that they can keep in mind for expectations, which is just frankly was probably unfair for 20 years and is certainly unfair for this year.
But even
I'm sorry.
even though
Dan.
let me just say this. Even though I kind of agree with Josh said about Belichick, the GM, it's also crazy though because the last 10 years they won 3 Super Bowls and made it to 5. So imagine if people thought he was a good GM, what the results would have been.
Well, imagine if he just was a good GM. But I mean,
Josh, my thing is, what do you guys expect for next year? Is that they're going to have a lot of changes? I mean, is because they got guys coming back, but okay, he's a decent GM, he's a good coach. Is he going to get a receiving core close to what Brady has, and then you don't need as good a quarterback? What are they going to do next year to make changes? Is just the same guys are going to show up again?
My thing is with receivers, and I think this. I mean, obviously there's an elite group. Like DeAndre Hopkins is elite. I think DK Metcalf is panning out to be elite. I think Mike Evans is elite. But kind of after that, like Amari Cooper was great with Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. He's stunk. He's been useless since, and he was useless his last year in Oakland too, and he's supposed to be elite. I think really what matters with a receiving core is the relationship between the quarterback and those receivers. Like, are Julian Edelman and Wes Welker and Danny Amendola and Chris Hogan good on any other teams outside the Patriots? No. Like, history's proven that they're not. And they've brought in – now, Randy Moss is obviously in that elite Hall of Fame level, but they've brought in other guys who are supposed to be really good wide receivers, and just because they don't click with Brady, it doesn't work. So I think it's less important the talent that they bring in and more important how they gel with the quarterback. So Bill's ability to bring guys in off the street who you might think this guy's garbage and he coaches them up and he finds a way. I think they're a better team next year, assuming Cam is back. If they have a different quarterback, then all bets are off. But assuming Cam's back next year, I think they're a better team next year than they are this year.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a safe bet. Should we I want to hear what you guys, before we talk about what's developing right now with the Celtics, I want to get all your takes. You're all baseball guys on Alex Cora back with the Red Sox.
Well, duh. I mean, this is like
it's been the worst kept secret, or maybe not even secret, but just everybody knew this was coming. And yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like the smart move. I don't think everybody in baseball is quick to put any shame aside of being associated with scandal and just move on with what makes the most sense into the future. And that's what's going on here. So now, to the extent that the Patriots have shed some payroll in the past couple of years, or not the Patriots, the Red Sox, I don't know what that means really for things going forward, and if we should expect any of the same success, right? The roster doesn't hold a candle to what it was 2 years ago when Cora showed up. So I would keep expectations in check, but it's what everyone anticipated.
I know they did sell 25% of the team to some. I haven't exactly figured out what they are. So apparently there's this group called Rubberball or something where Billy Beane is a part of. So now he has to leave the Oakland Athletics. They're an $8 billion conglomerate. They bought part of the Red Sox. So what that means is they said that they're going to allocate between $150 and $250 million to the Red Sox, not all in salary, but as far as improvements on the team, whether they're on the field. So some of it would be salary. And then also I know they're building like a nightclub in center field, like an amphitheater, 2,500 seats. They're making some other things. So they have according to the article I'm reading now, $55 million to spend in the offseason. A lot of that's going to be tied into extensions and arbitration as well. Their big move they can make is they can get Springer, which they probably won't. They can bring back Jackie Bradley, which they might. But I think everybody here, I mean, no matter if you don't know anything about baseball, you know everything about baseball. Last year was the pitching. The hitting was above average, but if you don't have any pitching, you can't win. And the pitching was below average to start the season and completely awful to end the season.
So you theoretically getting Chris Sale back. I don't know what Chris Sale you're getting back, but can they spend some of that money and allocate it towards getting Dominican doughboy there, the third baseman. God, what the hell is his name? Rafael Devers. Can we get him like a nutritionist to like follow him around? Because he showed up in spring training one way, and he showed up on opening day 3 months later like 35 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
And like,
I think, Josh, that's part of it. That's another reason they want to have Cora back. Because, I mean, Ron Renick can tell Devers, hey, you should eat healthy. And go, yeah, coach, yeah. Alex Cora says it holds a lot more weight, literally. I think, Devers had his breakout year when Cora was the manager. And I think you're going to see that again. There's been talk about putting Devers at first and Dahlback at third. But they do have some money to spend. I think they're going to be better than they were last year, obviously. But, I mean, Tampa Bay made it to the World Series. It's really a crapshoot. But if you have really good pitching, it covers up a lot of holes. And I wouldn't go out and sign a guy like Bauer. But I just heard today they're talking to Corey Kluber if they can get him. He trained. Did you hear this, Josh? He lives in, like, Hudson in the offseason. Isn't that bizarre?
yeah, it's a little weird.
He lives in Mass. Yeah, I guess his wife is from Northborough or something. So I guess they're talking to him now, which I didn't even know. I mean, I can't believe Corey Kluber lives in Massachusetts in the offseason. Of all the places you can live.
Well, I can't believe he lives in Hudson. Like, why not like Weston?
What's next to Hudson? It's Berlin.
Sudbury.
It's not somewhere west of Hudson. I guess he practiced at Hudson. There's a facility there he practices at.
Yeah.
But if they get some pitching, they can do something. But I mean, how much money do you want to spend? I mean, there's a lot of guys that are over 31. You sign them to a big contract. And then who's the other guy? Clevenger from San Diego. He signed a contract and he has to have Tommy John surgery. He hasn't even pitched yet. So it's really a crapshoot. And from year to year, it's difficult. And they also need to do some stuff with their bullpen as well, too. But because of all these teams losing money, a guy like Brad Hand, he had an $8 million option. He just didn't get picked up. He was probably one of the best relievers in baseball last year. So there's a lot going on with pitching-wise. Unfortunately, you won't know how good these guys are going to be until halfway through the year, just because of the offseason that they had.
All right, I definitely wanted to touch on that. And then should we, I guess we'll talk about what just broke with Gordon Hayward. So he's opting out. So he's opting out of $34 million, right?
Yeah, so
it's ridiculous that we'd be paying him $34 million for next season. So it's almost like good riddance, but actually it's not really good riddance, right?
Well, so it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen a human being do, because he doesn't want to be on the Celtics. I think that's basically come out that he doesn't want to be here. He's not happy with his role. Too bad, Gordon. You broke your leg. You've been hurt all the time. You're not the player you were 3 years ago when they signed you. So he should have opted in. The man, and I know his wife is heavily involved in a lot of the decisions he makes, for better or for worse, and I guess for the marriage's sake, for better. But and she hates it here. But my guy, you're never gonna make close to that money ever again now. He just opt in, get traded somewhere for a year, and then figure it out the next year. But he's in my opinion, and I know people have been saying, well, he'll have more long-term stability after this. It's like, just take the $34 million, get traded, and move on with your life. And it's I guess it's shitty for the Celtics because now, they don't have that trade piece. But it's I don't understand why he opted out.
What I'm reading now is what happened was the original deadline was Tuesday, and he moved that deadline to Thursday because they want to see what teams do in the draft and see if there was teams available. The Knicks happened to shed $40 million in payroll an hour ago as well. So he can go to the Knicks, the Hawks, which he sure is not going to go to. Or he can go anywhere he wants. If he could sign for $1 if he wanted to, he's not going to. But from what I understand is going to happen is that I guess they like Clint Capella in Atlanta. They could get him. But what they'd much rather do is with him on the team, they have $123 million in salary. I think the salary tax is $99 million. It's going to go down to $93 because of COVID, because it's all based off of revenue. So they're going to get whacked in taxes. What I heard what he's going to do is he's going to re-sign for a 2 or 3 year deal for a lot less, and then it gives them the ability to then use the full mid-level exemption, and they can get a guy like a Baines or whoever they want as a center. They're not that far off. They were pretty damn close last year. It was health. When he came back, he could barely walk. They're like, oh, we're waiting for Hayward to come back, waiting for Hayward to come back. He couldn't move. He couldn't jump. He couldn't do anything. I think maybe it was like a moral boost to the team, like, hey, we're getting Hayward back. But he really wasn't an impact player when he came back. Before he got hurt, though, they were a pretty damn good team. And as you saw last year, it was like, everybody knew the Lakers were going to win. I mean, I'm to this day, I'm convinced a healthy Gordon Hayward beats the Heat. The Heat did not do anything for me as a team. They were not exciting. They were a really good coach team, but I don't think the Heat were that great. And I really think a healthy Hayward would have made a huge difference because he's a ball handler. He can do all this stuff. You're not forcing guys like Broad Wanamaker to bail you out. You don't need Marcus Smart to hit 7 threes in 2 minutes for you to get out of a playoff game. And I think with the draft last night, they get a guy from Oregon, Pac-12 Player of the Year. He's a point guard. He's going to slide in. And then they get the best shooter in the draft, the guy Naismith, who shot over 54% from three. They didn't do well last year because other teams could outshoot them from three. And
their bench scoring sucked too.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. When when your starting five all have to score 20 points and you're not getting anything off the bench, it's really hard to win. There's not a larger margin for error there. You had to play just about amazing defense, and then they always get rebounded just about every game. If they break even with rebounds, it's a big story because it's a big deal for them. They never out-rebound a team by like 20 points, by 20 boards or 15 boards, like a lot of good teams do, like Wood Davis and James Wood when the Lakers would play somebody. So a lot of it's up in the air, but a lot of people, oh, Gordon's just going to walk for nothing. Well, I mean, I can't see him going to the Knicks or Atlanta. I mean, people go, oh, his wife's not happy. He probably wants to go to Indiana, but he probably wants to go to Indiana when he's 32, 33, 34. I think he still wants to win. And I think his best chance to win right now is with Boston because the pieces that are going to come back to Boston if they make a trade to the Pacers, it's going to be neutral. You're going to take away Miles Turner and a few other guys, and they're not going to be any better. So,
if the Celtics get Miles Turner, they're an immediate
Miles
front
Turner's
runner,
a
though.
stiff. He can't run.
No, that's just so untrue.
Look it up, Josh. Look it up. Miles Turner is a stiff. He gets like 4 rebounds a game.
Yeah,
so.
but he's
He's
really good at protecting the rim, and he can
He's
score.
He's not though. He's not that good.
He is.
Look it up.
I know Miles Turner. I watch a lot of Miles Turner. I'm a big Miles Turner guy. I watch a lot of Miles
You've
Turner.
You've always been a Miles Turner guy.
I'm like, in all honesty, like, I think I drafted him by accident in NBA 2K, like, whenever when he was a rookie. And I've been a huge Miles Turner guy ever since.
If they wouldn't get a guy like Sabonis, I'd say that's a good deal. I loved him. He's going to grab you 10, 15 rebounds a game. That's what they need, a guy who gets there and get rebounds. They don't need a guy who's going to block shots and, get in foul trouble because you're trying to swat everything into the stands. I want a guy who's going to, muscle somebody off the boards. I want a guy like Cantor, but that can actually play defense. If a guy like that exists, maybe they don't. I don't know. But yeah, Dan, draft last night was kind of funny because the Celtics had 3 draft picks. You're like, okay, can they please draft some guys and stash them somewhere? But they took 3 guys. I mean, they're going to get 3 guys. They picked up Semi Ojeleye today, so they'll probably dump him. Cantor opted in, and Tice is still on the team too. So they still have the same.
Wanamaker out, by the way. Wanamaker out.
Is it out?
They denied his team option. Yeah.
Well, I think that's because they were going to bring in the guy from Oregon, who's a 4-year starter in college. You're not going to pay a guy. You don't need to pay a guy $5 million if you can pay him $1 million. So, but I thought they did pretty good. But the draft wasn't exciting this year. It was LaMelo Ball was in there, but I mean, there was no like, oh my God, this transcendent stars. They talked. Who was the guy on the Bill? He played for the Bulls there, and he got hurt in a motorcycle accident. Jay Williams. He said there's no superstars got drafted last night. Like no, not now. I mean, you don't know until later on. Like Giannis was a 14 pick, but it's right coming out of college. There was no oh my God players last night, so it really wasn't that exciting of a draft.
Yeah, the biggest news was that the number 1 overall pick is a kid who doesn't even want to play basketball.
Wants to play football so bad. No, that's not even the biggest news.
He wants to be a rapper.
The biggest news is Michael Jordan just took a dump all over LeVar Ball by drafting his son. That is an all-time power move because LeVar Ball has said nothing but garbage about Michael Jordan for like the past 5 years. And Jordan drafted
didn't he
his
say
son.
They beat him 1-on-1?
Yeah,
he said he would beat him 1-on-1. Yeah.
Is that shoe company, Josh, still around?
Big Baller. I don't.
Yeah.
I think they technically are, but I think, like I know, the one who's in the league right now, Lonzo left. Lonzo is no longer.
I like to see
that
Nike
brand.
buy them for like $1. And just be like, all right, yeah, like thanks a lot, yeah.
Well, I just want to know, like, how is LeVar Ball rich? Because he's like a rich, like he's got money. Like, I remember the reality show; they live in like a huge house and all this.
Well,
stuff.
his son has a lot of money now.
I think he's the.
No, this was before though.
No, I think he's like the CEO of like an AAU team, and like.
Yeah, that's right.
His
Yeah.
parents fork over, especially in California, thousands of dollars for him to coach. And I mean, that
Yeah.
a lot of that AAU stuff can be a scam. So a lot of it's legitimate, but a lot of it's a scam, especially at the basketball level, from what I heard.
Well, and to kind of change gears real quick here on a more positive note, and to toot the soccer horn a little bit. U.S. men's national soccer team is going to make some noise in this upcoming World Cup in 2022. They just had their first series of friendlies since COVID, and their average roster was 23 years. The average age on the roster was 23 years old, and they looked really, really good. They tied Wales 0-0, and they just smacked Panama around 6-2. So U.S. men's national soccer team. Exciting time to be a soccer fan in the United States. That's all I'm going to say.
Did they change the rules, Josh, that now if your great grandparents are from the United States, you can play for the United States or something crazy like in Italy and all these? Like, how do we go all of a sudden get these great players? What happened?
So it's just I think that over the past 10 years or so, soccer has become a bigger sport in the United States, and you have more players who are being scouted to go play overseas. So I think there's 9 U.S. national team players playing in the Champions League, which is just ridiculous. That it's like you have a kid on Barcelona. Sergio Dest is an outside back playing for Barcelona.
There's a kid in Germany, Christian, whatever his name is.
Christian Pulisic is on Chelsea now.
Okay.
Giovanni Reina, whose parents were both on the national team, men's and women's respectively. He plays for Borussia Dortmund. Weston McKennie is the starting center midfielder for Juventus, which is the biggest club in Italy. So it's a really good time to be a U.S. soccer fan.
Do you blame LeBron James for other kids mimicking his game of not passing the ball to kids playing soccer because they never got the ball because they couldn't shoot and now want to play soccer instead?
That was such a convoluted question. I don't even know how to answer that. I blame LeBron James for a lot of things. That is not one of them.
I had someone
got lost in that, and whatever the hell that was.
When I was in England last year, I had a guy tell me that if LeBron James played soccer, he'd be the best soccer player in the world.
I mean, LeBron James would probably be a starting tight end in the NFL. I mean, the guy is I mean,
basketball was the way to go money-wise, no brainer.
Oh,
yeah, the basketball contracts are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
wow, I didn't expect us to have some in-depth U.S. men's soccer talk tonight.
It's super. Honestly, it's super exciting. It's really like let's go.
And then Brian just made us all dumber with that question. So.
But the next World Cup's not till 2022, right?
Yeah, but we are getting. I think there's a Gold Cup or Copa America something this summer, and then there's also the Euros this summer for soccer.
And 2022 Cup is the one in Qatar, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be played in the winter. It'll be February of 2022.
Right.
Now, Josh,
So
do
that's
you
gonna
root
be
for
really
whatever
interesting.
team is better, Italy or United States going into it? Or are you straight up United States?
So no, so in the last World Cup when there was no U.S., I had to hop on the Italy bandwagon. Of course, that didn't pan out well either. Italy will be interesting to see what happens. They're kind of in a weird place in terms of some of the age of their key players. I was really hoping that the Euros would have taken place this summer because Italy actually had an informed striker in Ciro Immobile, and then the Euros didn't happen this summer due to COVID. So that kind of sucked as an Italy fan, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the Euros. Germany just got waxed by Spain, so who knows what the Euros is going to look like.
And then the girls should dominate again like they always do.
Yeah, Alex Morgan's back. She's playing again. She made her debut for Tottenham in England after her having her baby in like May. So
9-month DL stint, they call it.
Yeah, but
No.
I will tell you this. And I will end on this note because I have to run and eat dinner before I go coach, and we're running out of meeting time anyways.
Yeah.
The gap in the women's game, and I think I've mentioned this at some point on this program before, is narrowing rapidly. So the United States days of walking their way to World Cups could very well be over with the next Women's World Cup. I mean, I still think the U.S. should win, but the cakewalk that it is for them to get there should probably be over at this point.
I'm waiting for when we can actually play the women as the men's team and then just win both.
Well, I mean, they should get paid. Let's start by paying them. I mean, the fact that the men get paid more for losing a game then the women get paid for winning a game, and the ratings are comparable, makes absolutely no effing sense whatsoever.
Yeah, because America likes winners, so you think we'd watch the girls' games more than the guys. Figure that one out.
Well, so we do. Quite often we do.
Yeah.
And it's just pay them, for Christ's sake.
Oh,
You have the money, just effing pay the ladies. For
that's right.
crying
Hey,
out
the
loud.
ladies.
Effing pay
Let's
'em.
end on that note.
Good title for a
Brian,
show. Just effing
Jason,
pay 'em, man.
Josh, thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving, fellas.
Happy
All right, happy
Thanksgiving to
Thanksgiving,
all.
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving. Take
Stay
care, guys.
safe.
Thanks a lot, guys.